I don't want to be the next one because 14 months ago I had major back surgery, had my back used on 7 different levels, 8.5 hours of surgery, and I went from not being able to say, and I'm like a new man, and like I'm in the last quarter. I'm in the last quarter of my life. I'm a football guy, so I divide my life into quarters. How I got on this tangent, I don't know. But my life has been 1 to 25 was the first quarter, 26 to 50 was the second quarter, 51 to 75 was the third quarter, and now I'm headed into the fourth. And I didn't think I had a fourth quarter in me. I really didn't. I thought before I had the surgery that my life as I knew it was over. But thanks to UCSF in San Francisco and a great surgeon, I'm swinging the golf club again, although not very many times, but working my way back into it and back to speaking again, because I went a whole year in 2023 without working, without playing golf, and it's a miracle that I'm here. And don't change the logo, please. Please do not change the logo. My sister rode up with me. And the reason she rode up with me because I showed her the SIR logo, and it's got the rooster. That's our Portuguese national bird. She thought this was a Portuguese event. Little does she know that when she found out it wasn't Portuguese, I said, you can't come in. So she's at the donut shop around the corner there having a cake donut while we're all in here. But it's great. It's great to be here. Obviously, I just finished the season, which was my 15th with Fox. I was there at the Super Bowl for what I thought was an entertaining game, won by a team that I think most of the country wanted to win. You know, we as an officials could only take the Chiefs so far. And it actually makes me think about, you know, officials can't really determine the outcome of the game on purpose. But it reminds me of when I got into the NFL, which was 1996. I had been officiating college football, and I put in my application. I think I probably started putting my application in 1992. And when you become a finalist, which I became, you go through a whole series of interviews and tests. The first one's with psychological people. They came out to Sacramento to the Holiday Inn. 3 hours. 3 hours in a room at the Holiday Inn. They asked you all kinds of questions, not football related, but all about your upbringing and everything else, and how you would react to this and how you would react to that. And my dad, who was a college official, and by the way, a big 49er fan, but he kind of went through the whole process with me. He would actually intercept my mail and open my mail from the NFL that was addressed to me. So I got through the psychological exam, and then I met with an FBI agent, an ex-FBI agent, and he goes through all your financial stuff. And when he was done, he said, "You're good as gold. I don't have to do anything. I don't need to do any follow-up work." I said, "Great." A day later, my neighbor across the street said, "Did you do something wrong?" and I was like, "No, why?" I said, "Well, the FBI came to my door and they asked me if there's like cars that pull up in the middle of the night and any kind of suspicious activity." So I got through that. And then I had to go back to New York and interview with all the officiating supervisors, and then you wait. And so April of 1996, I got a call from Jerry Seaman, who was the head of officiating. He said, "Congratulations, we're bringing you in." Now, if you're an official and you've been working, you know that if that's your aspiration, that's the pinnacle. So I was like so excited about that, and then Jerry Seaman said, "Don't tell anybody." And I said, "Don't tell anybody." And he goes, "Don't tell anybody." I said, "Well, can I tell my dad? My dad's been through this whole process with me. He's going to be so excited." And Jerry said, "Okay, you tell your dad, but don't really, I don't want to hear about it in the Stockton Record because I was in Stockton, California at the time, and I said, fine. So I had to call my dad, and so he and I kind of had a rough relationship growing up. So I called Van Buskirk Golf Course, which is where he played on Wednesdays with his buddy. And I said to Felix Claveren, the head pro that answered the phone, Felix, is my dad there? And he goes, haven't seen him yet. And he said, I said, well, would you have him call me when he gets there because he's coming to play? And tell him there's nothing wrong. 5 minutes later, I get a call. And he goes, what's up? And I said, Dad, I got in. My father, you got in what? Dad, I got in the NFL. Silence. Doesn't say anything for 20, and now I'm kind of an emotional wimp. And so I'm getting a little emotional thinking about my dad's finally maybe proud of me that I reached this level that he never did reach. And after about 20 seconds, he finally said, just let me tell you one thing, son. And that was it. That was it. I knew now. I'm glad he didn't see me because I had tears. And another 20 seconds of nothing. And then he finally said, don't fuck the 49ers. And he hung up the phone. He never said one thing after that. That was the last thing he said. And so when I saw him that night, he said, I walked back and our group was already, we were late teeing off. I put my ball on the tee and he said, I hit the longest drive of my life I've ever hit. Which was his way of telling me that he was proud of me. And so when he finally got to see me work in the NFL, it was St. Louis playing at San Francisco in '96, second week of the season. San Francisco, a horribly hot day, but he takes his wife, my stepmom, takes her to the game with another couple from Stockton, and he's going to see me work. So as an official, you come out an hour before the game starts and you walk the perimeter of the field. And you're looking at things like make sure the pylons are in the right spot and all that kind of stuff. So I knew where his seats were because I'd been to a lot of those games. So I walk over and I walk in front of his seats and I look up and there he is. And he's standing up. Now mind you, it's like 90 degrees. He's got a handkerchief, a white handkerchief over the top of his head. And it's like I looked at my dad and he looked at me and gave me a thumbs up and I'm like, this is it. This is it. I was just a mess. 3 minutes to go in the first half. There's a timeout. PA announcer comes on and says, well, Johnny Gaines, please report to the first aid station behind section 328. That was his buddy that he came up with, who was sitting in a different section. So I walked back over and looked at his seats, empty. They're gone. So now I figured, okay, he saw me work in the NFL. He had a heart attack. So I had to work the last 3 minutes. I went to my referee and told him what I'd heard, and he said, wait a minute, they'll know about it. We'll ask him at halftime. And this is kind of when I found out how big the league was, because finally at halftime it ended. Mike Carey, my referee, went to our security guy and said, Mike Pereira heard, and the security guy said, I know all about it. And I went, okay, tell me. And he said, your stepmom had some nachos before the game, and she had a little bit of a heat stroke. And your dad is with her at the hospital, and he is fucking pissed off. And I'm going, and he goes, and we have a phone next to him so you can call. You can call to make sure, to know that we're telling you the truth. So I called from our locker room, and he this is my dad. I shouldn't use these words, they're not mine, but it was like, he picks up the phone and goes, I will never bring the bitch to another 49er game. So we had an interesting life as well. But I have spent spent now really 54 years in officiating. I started when I was a student at Santa Clara. I got recruited to work Pop Warner football games in East Palo Alto at $10 a game is what they paid us cash. I didn't want to do it until they said it was $10 a game. And I got $30 cash on a Sunday. And I've been involved in officiating now ever since that day. I mean, and I obviously did Pop Warner football, high school football, junior college football, the four-year college football, and then into the NFL. And then when I took over the officiating program in the NFL, I was in charge of that for 12 years in New York. I worked in New York, and then when I decided I wanted to come home, back to the West Coast, Fox hired me, and I've been in this position now as a rules analyst for 15 years. And it's fascinating because I'm one of the lucky people. I found out halfway through the first quarter of the first Pop Warner game that I did in East Palo Alto, where parents were yelling at me, where I didn't know what I was doing, kids didn't know what they were doing. This is weird, but I found my passion in life. I actually got hooked. It was like somebody injected adrenaline into my arm, and I never regretted a day. I have not regretted a day being involved in whatever level that I have been at. I've been yelled at by some of the best. And some of them have been mean, and some of them have been kind of okay. But it's the biggest challenge that I ever had to face. Obviously moving across country and running that program, and now speaking in front of what was a record 126 million people on Super Bowl Sunday, that I was in the booth standing next to Tom Brady, knowing that the pressure was on him, not me, but it was incredibly awesome, quite frankly, to be a part of it. And I turned 75 in a month. My contract expired at Fox. And by the way, he said 1 to 1:30. I mean, I speak at these clubs too, and at 1:30 people have to go back to work. This group doesn't have to go back to work. So I can speak to 1:35 if I want to.
We gotta take a
the
peek.
clock on me, huh?
We have to take a peek.
Oh, everybody's got to take a peek. Yeah, that's true. that is true. But my contract's expired, and so I'm sitting now trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I asked the Fox people. I said my contract expired. The nicest compliment they could give me was they said, "You have a lifetime contract." And so I know I can go back. I know it's something I love doing. I know I'm likely not going to be playing golf anymore. And so it's like I'm a little worried about running out of things to do. Although I do have a foundation, which I'll quickly mention and then open it up to questions. Officiating is in dire shape. And this whole lead up to Kansas City didn't help it. Because young people are not getting into officiating anymore. Because all they read about is the negative. And so their shortage around the country, in all sports, not just football, is really dramatic. And part of my mission in life is to help make it better, help get some more people in. And Randy was with us in Sacramento a couple of months ago. We started a foundation, my wife and I did. We give scholarships to veterans to become sports officials in their communities. We pay all the expenses that it costs, all the costs to become a baseball umpire, football umpire, registration fee, National Association of Sports Officials dues. We pay for all the veterans' costs, and we have now issued over 1,700 scholarships in the last 6 years. And So I know I will always have something to do because that has supplanted my role as a commentator or an official. It's taken over the lead in my life trying to make things better for veterans and for officials and ultimately for kids in their communities. My favorite thing is to take questions. I really love the idea of taking questions. So I think we're going to hand the microphone around, correct? Maybe, Nellie?
There's one over there, but it hasn't been working. So why don't you just repeat the questions?
There's another way of doing it.
Watch that step.